Hey everybody, how's it going? Mwah! Sorry. I'm just trying to get everything set here. Hopefully all is good and you guys are receiving well. It's been a while since we've all been together here on Facebook Live. Apologies that it has been. I am hoping that I will be able to schedule more live interactions with all of you beauties so that we can be together here on Facebook and we can journey through the wonders of love's consciousness together in the coming weeks and months and all that jazz. So actually, if anybody wants to make any comments regarding when the best days or times for you are, if I'm looking to do something more regularly, at like a once a week thing, please do share. In the meantime, I'm going to refresh my Facebook page because today's wonderful journey is all about you. And basically what I am doing here is offering what one would call a satsang, or basically free life guidance. So if there is something that you are grappling with, if there's something that has you seeking greater clarity, if you're confused, if you're unsure, if there's doubts or fears that you're dealing with, that you would like some assistance in finding the best, or at least one amongst the best solutions to deal with it, then please write in the comments below the video that you're watching right now, and I will answer your questions here on the live feed. Unfortunately, there is no way with Facebook for you to interact in the video itself besides the comments. So if you do want to ask a question, you're going to have to write it in the comment section. And for those who are embarrassed or shy, you don't have to, expose everything. There's many ways of us getting information or love's wisdom that we can request in a manner by which it is more comfortable to self. So take a moment to ponder, and then please do feel free to write your questions in the comment section below. And of course, anything else that you would like to share, if you want to ask me to speak about something specifically, if you would like to share some insightful love's wisdom that you have recently received with all of we, then please do. It's important. It's important that we remember that as much as we feel like whatever it is that we're going through is, our own thing, and for some of us it's like, oh my gosh, it's so massive, or oh my gosh, I can't believe I can't deal with this. The truth of the matter is that, yes, we are all very unique individuals, 100,000% unique individuals. But we're also all one. And we're all part of the same species. And as human beings, we all are dealing with the same emotions. And so while the specifics of any situation that we may be dealing with may be different and unique to us, the reality is that what we're really dealing with are the emotions that are associated with those situations and the manners by which we may deal with them are also similar. Again, unique to the situations, yes, and specific details, yes, are different, but the general overall, all of which to say that whatever it is that you might see yourself journeying through in this now, if you share it, as unique as you think it might be, the reality is that there is likely going to be a whole whack of individuals that are going to benefit enormously from you sharing your journey and being transparent and authentic with whatever it is that you're going through. So just to keep that in mind, because I know it can be embarrassing, or it can require a certain level of confidence and courage to share. But when we take into account that we're actually assisting other people by so doing, it does make it a little easier. Well, at least it does for me. So hopefully it does for you too, because again, as different as we are still quite similar. Yes? So as I'm awaiting for all of you wonderful beings to share your questions, because this is an amazing opportunity to pick my brain. Not that I want to toot my own horn, but I guess I am. And this is, you know, a brain surgeon's specialty is surgery on the brain, and that's who you want to go to. And my specialty is consciousness and guiding people in their life and providing life guidance for people. So, and this is an opportunity to receive that guidance pro bono. So definitely, if you're wanting, needing, would like some clarity, this is an awesome opportunity to take advantage. And again, keeping in mind that when you do, you're assisting all of your brothers and sisters who will likely be able to identify on some level and will be able to utilize the guidance provided for themselves in their own lives. Speaking of which, as I said, as we're waiting, I will share a little bit of what I've been through of late. I first would like to begin by saying I'm so uberly happy right now that I'm in a position to be sharing. For as much as I would like to be able to walk with all of you while I'm going through my journeys, and by journeys in this instance, what I'm referring to is when I'm going through a transitional journey, a transcendental journey, a journey in which I am growing and blossoming. I would love to take you all along with me while I'm going through it. And hopefully in the future, such journeys will be more smooth sailing. But oftentimes, as we experience in the physical realm, there can be growing pains associated with our growing, our blossoming. And when I am going through something that is on a level of consciousness, I require the opportunity provided by the time and space that I take for myself, being the hermetic mystic that I am, to go through it, to process it, to analyze it, to ponder upon it, and then eventually to integrate it into my beingness and be able to share with all of you as a result, which is why I'm so blessed, because I'm ready to share, which means that the biggest part of the journey, insofar as my own personal experience of the toiling, you know, like with our gardens, we have to toil the garden. You have to turn over the earth. You want to get rid of all of the, you know, toxins and weeds and what have you, and, you know, make it all nice and ready for blossoming. And that can be laborious. You know, some people call it challenging. I like to say opportunity for growth. Just makes things nicer. Whatever we can do to make things nicer. So the fact that I'm in a position now that I'm ready to share with everyone is such a sigh of relief. There's so much breath involved in it. So first and foremost, I'd like to express that gratitude, essentially to me, for going through it and for making it through and for sticking to it instead of running away, freaking out and stopping everything and finding a way to not face what I had to face, because, of course, infinite are the responses that we can make to any life situation that comes our way. And when we're talking about consciousness, as opposed to physical growth, which I'm sure we can all remember when we were younger, when your legs were growing and your knees were really hurting and your joints and everything because you were growing. Consciousness growth is more aligned basically with self-love. That's really what it comes down to. And I know that there's many of us that, are wonderful examples of self-love, of course. But the reality is that infinite is the depth and height of self-love that any of us may experience. And so as much as one may have gone through their shit and dealt with all of their stuff and the ego's put into the right place, there's always more. You are never, ever at a stage of enlightenment where there is no more enlightenment to be had. None of us who, there is no one who is the guru and has no more to learn, to grow, to know. It's impossible. We live in an existence that's infinite. So, as a result, no matter how much you have dealt with your stuff, there's always more that you can deal with, right? So I have been on this journey for over 20 years now, consciously. And when I say this journey of self-love. Oh, Lori, I just saw that you were here and now you have to go. Mwah! Apologies that I didn't see you coming in before. It's not really showing me. I see Slava, Peter, Minato, and Jean. Hello, beauties. Thank you so much for coming and joining. It makes the journey so much more wonderful for me. And if any of you have any comments or questions that you'd like to share, please do. So, back into the self-love. Yes. So, infinite is the potential of self-love that any of we may embrace. And as I was saying, I've been on this journey consciously dedicated to facing my fears for over 20 years. Oh, look at that, I'm rhyming. And in the last few months, I opened up a new can of worms. So, without getting into too much detail, and I can't remember the exactitudes of everything, but about 4 months ago, I started on this latest journey. And it started with an absolutely gorgeous realization. I mean, just stunning. And it was a new level of awareness that I hadn't embraced prior to, which was regarding the interconnectedness of we and all that is, ever was, or will be. And basically what dawned on me, and it dawned on me literally in seconds, all of this information came through. But basically what I received is that I had been walking and I wound up at a certain corner, and in that moment I was like, wow, my walk took me here and there, and I wasn't like directed, I just was going with the flow, and here I am. And I was noticing that, I was about to cross the street, so there were cars coming that I had to take into account, and there was somebody else that wanted to cross, and we had to make sure our paths, we didn't bump into each other, and all of this stuff was happening. And I realized in that moment that everything that I was seeing there in that moment was there in that moment because of so many different things that led each of the elements that were there in that moment to that moment. So, for example, speaking to my own experience, I was going for a walk and I was just flowing. I had a destination, but my route was not mapped out. So the realization came because I wound up somewhere that was familiar and somewhere that I liked. So it was kind of like, oh, look at where I wound up. But if I didn't take the turn here and I didn't stop for a moment there and I wasn't singing the song that I was singing that got me dancing, that I wasn't looking, and then I wouldn't have wound up where I was. And all of these things started to play in my head. Even the fact that I went on that walk, I wasn't even sure that I was going to go on it. And there were so many things that happened before that led me to going on to that walk that weren't even from that day, that were going back like a week. I wanted to go for the walk because I had wanted to go the week earlier and I didn't. So I was really like, okay, I'm going to go. But then I wasn't sure. And all of this, and boom, I was there. And then all I'm thinking is, well, that same story, but obviously, again, unique, individual to each. But basically that same kind of experience of all of these things lining up to make it that each person that was on my pathway was on my pathway occurred for each person, not just for me. And they all intersected when they did, how they did, so beautifully. Oops, I'm just trying to fix something here. Because of this interconnectedness of we. And that started this whole process going of the interconnectedness of we and how majestically interwoven, intricately interwoven everything is. And then that started this whole spinning cycle that took me another 4 months to go through, because whilst this was an awe-inspiring, glorious moment of consciousness in which I was able to really, really languish in the gloriousness of all that is. I mean, it's just mind-blowing when you think about it. Like, the earth has been around for millions of years. Do you know how many massive boulders there are blowing through the cosmos that could have knocked the earth out of orbit, I don't know, 1,000,001 times and didn't? The fact that our galaxy still exists as it does, that the planets are still in orbit as they are, I mean, it's just, the more and more you ponder upon it, the more awe-inspiring it is. Having said that, as they had said in that, I think it was Spider-Man movie, although it is, I think it's just a saying, with great power comes great responsibility. When you realize that however minuscule each and every one of we may feel that we are, I mean, if you think about our planet, it is this tiny speck of blue in a cosmos of infinite vastness. Like, we're nothing. The earth, forget about you and me. The earth is like nothing when you think about it in relation to everything else. Like, if you think about the sun being like a human being and the earth is a human, the sun can basically blow the earth away, and yet it doesn't. And then we come to us, and we're even more minuscule than this minuscule earth that we're all existing upon, and yet each and every one of we is playing an integral role in this interconnectedness of all of we. This web that we are all a part of, that, you know, because you did X, Y, and Z, it led you to here, which affected this person's A, B, and C, which led to QRSTUV, and it's all interdependent upon each other, just like our ecosystem, which, for those who are not as informed, the entire Earth school, our entire Earth, is one huge, magnanimously amazing, intricately interwoven, interconnected ecosystem. From our ozone layer to the minerals in the earth, everything is dependent upon everything else to exist, to survive and to thrive. So there is a major issue right now with respect to the bees, for example. And if they die out, there is going to be rippling effects that will go across our Earth school. And we, as human beings, the most developed species on the planet, will be affected and will feel the effects if the bees wind up becoming distinct. Everything is interconnected. If there is a rainstorm in Australia, for example, which occurred because there was some cosmic disturbances in our galaxy causing rain disturbances in Australia, we here on Canada will be affected. It might take a week to 10 days, but we will feel the effects thereof after the fact, because it's all connected. When you realize that, you realize that you, as minuscule as you are, as we are, as all is as magnanimously imperative to the whole of the all, to which we are all one. And that's pretty big. It's big responsibility to realize that you matter. You make a difference. It's not just learn to love yourself because you make a difference and we're trying to build you up. It's also, you make a difference. What's the difference that you're making? Who are you choosing to be? Because at the end of the day, I don't even know where that saying comes from, at the end of the day. But anyways, I use it. It seems to work. People get it. So at the end of the day, each of we gets to choose the answer to, who am I? Each of we. Oh, I'm seeing more people are joining. Okay, it's very wonky because I don't see it. I'm looking at Facebook, but I'm also looking at this. Apologies, everyone who I have not seen. And if you've asked any questions, no questions. Okay, so I'm sorry for my fingers. I don't know how else to do this. Yosef, hello. Severino, hello. Thank you so much for coming. Welcome, welcome. Please feel free to ask any questions that you may want to ask if you're seeking any guidance, as I continue to yippity yap a little bit, so that we are sharing until there are questions to be answered. So back to self-love. As I was saying, at the end of the day, each and every one of we gets to choose the answer to the question, who am I? And let me try and clarify that for you a little bit. Each of we is born to certain parents, sometimes just to one, and sometimes to the ones that we're born to that give us away. That's okay. But, well, maybe it is, maybe it's not. That's not the point. But we all have our background. We all have our story of where we came from. I came from this geographical location. I come from this socioeconomic background. I live in this kind of a house. My parents drive this kind of a car. Okay, that's gotcha. I'm this gender. I'm this sexual identity. I'm this race, culture, religion, whatever labels you want to put onto you or that you were born into. Fine. And for the most part, you can't really, I'm a woman. Unless I undergo some kind of surgery, I'm a woman. And that's just what it is. I was born to my parents, not someone else's parents. Those are my parents. I have the siblings I have. Those are my siblings. But who am I? Besides all of that, who am I is who I choose to be. Now, I can't choose to be South American. I'm North American by birth. I can choose to become South American if I go through all of the process, blah, 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 accepted, yada, yada. Okay. But regardless of all of that, wherever I go in the world, whoever I speak to, wherever I happen to be, whatever I happen to be doing, who am I is up to me. Who am I is up to you. And each of we gets to make that choice. And that choice is a huge choice. Wouldn't you agree? Because in any instance, who you are choosing to be, the answer that you're giving to that question, who am I, affects everything. It affects how you think about yourself, about the people that you're around, about the situation that you're in. It affects the thoughts that you have about them. It affects the feelings that you have about them and yourself. And as a result, it affects the actions that you take. The feelings and thoughts that we have can be silent. Hey, Melissa. Mwah! Thank you for joining, babes. They're internal. And nobody necessarily knows what you're thinking or feeling. But it's your thoughts and your feelings that lead to the physical actions that you take that anybody can see if it's being done publicly. And where does that all stem from? The answer to the question, who am I? So it's important for us to take a moment or two or 10 to reflect upon that answer, to reflect upon that question, and to realize the enormous power that we have in utilizing the gift of our free will to answer that question and then to embody the answer to that question, to integrate it into every cell of our beingness and to be it. Of course, and here is the gift that we all get. So for those of you who are like hyperventilating right now, oh my gosh, it's too much. You get to choose to change it whenever you want. So today you can choose to be blue and tomorrow you can choose to be red. Today you can choose to be hate and tomorrow you can choose to be love. But really, when you're making a choice, whatever choice you make, doesn't it make sense to choose an answer that makes you feel good about you? Doesn't it make sense to take the time to figure out what makes you feel good about you? And then to do whatever it is that you can to be the you that feels good to you? And again, keeping in mind that that choice that you make affects everything and everyone. I know, again, hyperventilation may be happening right now. Relax. There are so many loopholes that are there for all of we. We can take life as seriously or sillyiously as we would like to. Hello, Bob. Long time no see. Yes, it's absolutely beautiful to be here with everybody again, and I'm blissed out that you are here as well. So thank you so much for joining. We can make choices, and we can make bad choices, and they can have negative effects. But at the end of the day, the reality is that the likelihood is that they will be positively impacting to somebody, somewhere, in some way. You know, for someone like myself, for example, I'm a life coach or a life guide, call it what you will, a rose by any other name. If there weren't people who were having issues Or you don't have to have any issues, but just people wanting to talk to somebody to get their thoughts out and have someone to play them off of, I wouldn't have a purpose. If somebody didn't fall down, somebody else wouldn't have the opportunity to help to pick them up. And sometimes when we are learning to better ourselves, we need to see what it is that we're wanting to better. And sometimes we need a mirrored image to let us see a little bit more clearly. So, although it is an enormous onus on each of we, what the answer to the question, who am I, is, and I guess you can see how I went through a few months of like self-love growth, having gone through all of these questions and issues that I've been bringing up. We can always change the answer, and whoever and however we are being is ultimately in some way, shape, or form providing to the whole. So, having said that, that's not a carte blanche to go and, go crazy in the fear department. Just don't want anybody suffocating from the realization of the enormity of responsibility that each of we holds in our hands in answering the question, who am I? And then living up to that and being the I and me that we love ourselves to be. So, yeah, so I will be sharing more about my most recent journey regarding facing fears that I have been facing so that I can welcome more self-love into my beingness, and therefore there's more of me to love more of you. Because really that's the way it works. The more of you that you're loving, the more of you there is to love others. Because if you're not loving, then it's closed. And if it's open through fear, which is not necessarily what we want to be sharing with others. You're only meant to love me. Ah, Bob, there's plenty of love to go around. Namaste love for everyone, as we are all one, and each of us is a beautiful emanation of love's light. But it is a journey for each of we. For in order to love self more holistically, is to face that which is keeping us from loving self, which unfortunately is our fear. And if you think about it logically, fear is something scary. That's why it's called fear. So it can be scary to look at it. It's why we don't look at it. Actually, our biggest fear is looking at our fear, which turns out to be nothing most of the time. Our doubts about ourselves, our insecurities. When we look back on them retrospectively, it's always like, really? That's what you were freaking out about? Yeah, I had this bad thought about this person and I just can't believe I did that, and oh my gosh. And for most of we, our fears are just not to be putting us down or anything, but silly. But we hold ourselves to such high levels. You can't even see my hand. It's going so high because it's beyond the camera, but to such high levels of perfection, which are just ludicrous. Especially living in this world that we do in this current now, which we have been spoon-fed fear for so long, and self-doubt and belittling ideas about the self, that to expect ourselves to be perfect is just, and we are perfect in our imperfection. It's how we are unique and wonderful, and and what is perfect and what is imperfection. And, ooh, I can just keep going on. Oh my gosh. So let's keep back on track. Yes. So essentially, the reality is that most of the fears that we have about ourselves are really silly fears, but scares the shit out of us to look at them. It really does. And that's why I do what I do, and that's why I'm here and, you know, offering the services that I do to everyone to assist you to walk through what I call the valley of fears. Hey, Eddie. Mwah! I'll see you soon, beautiful. In a greater feeling of ease, in greater comfort. Because when you walk alone, which I do, and probably that's why I wind up walking alone. That's why I'm the hermetic mystic that I am. So that I can face it alone and then be in a more empowered position of awareness to assist you so that you don't have to face it alone. Because you don't. It's not necessary. There are people like me whose lives are dedicated to assisting you to face your fears in the greatest ease and comfort possible. You don't have to prove anything to anyone, including yourself. You don't have to go stand at the edge of the abyss and jump all by yourself. I know that there's a lot of sayings that say you got to jump and trust that you'll fly, or there will be a net to catch you. But guess what? You can put wings on before you even go. And one of those wings is called Roni Lipstein. So if you are wanting to embrace yourself in greater self-love, if you are wanting to be able to face your fears with greater comfort and ease, reach out to someone like myself whose life is dedicated to being your wings until you learn how to fly on your own. Because you will. And why do we have to make it so difficult for ourselves when we can make it easier? This is definitely something that I, being someone again who walks solo, has learned along the way, which I must say, and it is unbelievably vitally important to me to make mention of this in this now. As much as I walk alone, I am embraced by some of the most magnificent souls I have ever met and that this planet has ever been graced with. And I thank each and every one of you beautiful beings for being who you are and for holding me as you do in the ways in which I am able to embrace your holding me comfortably and easily so that I can walk my journey on a solo manner, even though it's not. Because as solo and hermetic and the hermetic mystic that I am surrounded by a glorious symphony of earth angels divine who keep me here, balanced and capable of diving into the depths of the valley of fear so that I can come back out and be here with all of you. And I can't even express the enormity of gratitude, and I cannot go there right now because I will start blubbering like a baby. Because I am so emotional. And so I just wanted to take a moment to just say I love you all so very much. Thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you. Mwah! So on that note, more wonderfulness to come. And yes, Bob, definitely remember those who have come before us. Bliss your ancestors. Know that they are walking with you. That you are walking on their shoulders as they are standing on yours. Floating maybe above them. And they are there. And if you want to lean in to them, lean. And not just your ancestors, your loved ones, your dear ones, your pets, they're all there. And holding you lovingly, always. But that's a whole other story that we can get into another time, because now we're talking about mediumship and channeling, which is a whole new thing that has been coming through me lately as well, which has caused the discombobulation that I am now starting to finally come back to. I will leave you with this before I go. As scary as the journey might be, and again, reach out and get assistance. There is no need to walk through the valley of fear alone. But I will say, there is no journey, in my humble opinion, as worthy and deserving of your time, your energy, your investment, your everything, than the journey of self-love. None. There is no vacation, there's no job, there's no salary, there's no gift. There is nothing as incredibly worthy, deserving, giving, gifting, blossoming, huge as the journey of self-love, because it affects everything else I just spoke to. Everything. Everything. Including your own bebés. Everything is positively affected when you choose to consciously journey the pathway of self-love. So, on that note, my beautiful Earth Angels Divine, my brothers and sisters, in Lakesh Alakin, I am another you. Thank you for being, thank you for sharing, thank you for coming. And I look forward to being here with all of you beauties again very, very soon. Again, if there is a day or time that you think would be best for us to meet up on a weekly basis, please share in the comments. And hopefully next time you will have some wonderful questions that you would like to ask so that I can provide some guidance to you and as a result to everybody else who is joining in. Blessings, blessings, blessings. Namaste. Mwah. A most beautiful now to everybody in every way, always. Blessedly be. Mwah, mwah. Bliss kiss.